Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Wanted to give you a quick heads up before we jump into this episode with Morgan Page. Unfortunately, I was dumb and I did not hit record on the microphones. And so this episode is really just salvaging the audio from the cameras. So I used AI and a bunch of tools and tried to clean it up the best I can. Thanks, Morgan Page, for joining the podcast. He shares a lot of really awesome stuff in this episode. Really, really good content, really good stuff to learn from. So, make sure you stick around and listen through the whole episode. But just want to give you a heads up before we dive in. The audio is not ideal, but I thought it was worth sharing because there's some really good content in here. So, with that in mind, let's jump into today's episode.
No, I'm just kidding. You're on tour right now.
Yes, the last couple shows already.
Yeah, how's that going?
It's good. It's fun to do a co-headline tour. It's a little less pressure. Like you get to. We aren't doing tag team sets. We're doing our distinct sets. It's totally different. So it's a nice treat, man. To buy one ticket and go to the display.
That's cool. Wow. Yeah, I don't honestly know too much about Artie. He's like pretty young, isn't he?
Yeah. But it's all relative to right. Like he's true. He I think he's in his 30s. Yeah, in his 30s. But
he's got good genes. Like he's 18 or 19.
Yeah, that's probably why. It's wild. I mean, I don't know how he escaped Russia. He's got a whole story of like, it goes back there every now and then, but I don't think a lot of Russian producers. There's a lot of amazing talent out of there.
Oh, he's Russian, right?
Yeah, that's wild.
How did you guys connect or meet?
I think we both were playing each other's material, and our agents kind of drummed the idea, like, what if we did a co-headline tour? Like, what would that be like?
Yeah.
And, Artie's just been a big fixture in the progressive house world. So,
yeah. So then let's try it out. Yeah, man. Well, I've been listening to you for a hot minute. I think like probably 2009, 2010. Maybe was that about the time The Longest Room came out or still after that?
Yeah, Longest Room was 2008 and they came here was 2012. It's been a while.
Yeah. I know you're a big wine connoisseur type of person. Well, thank you, sir. Should we do a little cheers?
Yeah.
Cheers.
There we go.
Ting ting. Hey. Yeah, so tell me about wine. What do you know about wine?
I know. Well, I got into it because of Vegas residencies, of all things. So I started, because they give you room credit for foods. I found this loophole that you could use. They'll give you, like the Wynn will give you this crazy food budget they know you use.
Yeah.
Unless you just get A5 steak every night. So there was like all this wine credit left over I could use. So I would bring bottles back and towels, and I built a wine collection based on playing these Vegas venues. And like, I didn't know wine was good. I thought it was grocery store stuff. And then you take a taste of the good stuff, you go back.
Yeah.
It's a pricey hobby, but
yeah.
But that does tons of good wine for like $30. But I would bring back like $200 bottle of wine from a show and smuggle it back on the airline.
That's awesome.
Why not?
Yeah, I did the same thing when I came back from Israel a couple months ago. It was like bringing back wine and like this like special vodka and stuff.
Yeah,
they're like in olive oil.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of research on wine because I didn't know anything about wine until a couple of days ago because I knew you were into it. Have you ever heard of disgorging?
Is that when they're making like a pet mat or something? They have to disgorge some carbonation.
Exactly. Yeah, for sparkling wine specifically, I guess it's like they turn the bottles upside down after they put the yeast in them. And then I guess they let it like do the fermenting, whatever yeast thing, and then they'll freeze the bottleneck. And then they pop it open and all the yeast shoots out of the top and they reseal it and sell it.
There's so much to it, to the wine making. Like I want to do a wine someday and I will not be growing up from scratch. I have grapes planted in my yard, my slope, and now
you have like a mini vineyard in your yard?
It's like 10 plants. I didn't know how to clone the plants I was just like, what can I learn? What's some random stuff I didn't learn? People were making their own bread. I was like, forget that. That's too much work.
Yeah.
So I cloned some grapes.
That sounds way fuller than your head.
Yeah.
I would take that any day. I feel like if you drink enough wine, you're just like sleepy. If you eat too much bread, you just feel like a giant fat ball of wood.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to some of the winemakers, and there's some product that they drink to avoid hangovers. And it's like you drink this little vial, like the size of a little shot before, like 2 hours before you start drinking. And I need to test it out.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Yeah, Z-Biotic or something.
Well, how many times have you been in Colorado?
I remember I used to play Beta all the time.
So that could only from Beta.
You remember Beta was like Beatport's club.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a Beatport on it.
Yeah, it was like the same guys that created Beatport. So I've been playing here probably since at least 2010, 2012. Yeah.
That's probably when I was first visiting Denver.
Some of that you're out.
Oh,
So, yeah.
but yeah, Denver's a vibe. This is local Colorado wine. It's called Carboy.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So shout out Carboy for providing. That's what I just drank for today. Thank you. Yeah, they've won best wine 2 years in a row. I guess best red wine. But anyway, man, no, I'm glad you're on the podcast. Thanks for hanging out. I know you're on tour. You're playing church tonight, so I'm stoked for that. But yeah, I was just like looking at your website and everything the last week, and I had no idea you built out like this awesome trainee resource on your website called MP Quick Tips. You've got like some really valuable resources on there for like producers and anything from like just music tech in general to like quick tips for producing and like dialing your low end, I think was one, or like low end theory. There's a lot of really solid tips on there. Like what made you want to start that?
Selfishly, it was just to have those tips written down for myself so I wouldn't forget them. I was like, okay, this worked in the studio. I've been music for 25 years and just try to like write down. I write down these ideas in index cards. And then, so like they became tweets. And over time, I would have it so there was like this auto scheduler that would randomize the tips that would come up. But the idea was like knowledge compression. Can I take these ideas, put them in a tweet form in 140 characters? So that was the main point and then share it. So it was first selfishly just for myself, so I wouldn't lose those ideas. And now why not share these with people? And then I thought, well, if I'm going to share them, why not make them visually appealing? And so beyond these blog posts, maybe each blog post could have 20, 30 tips in it. I was like, what are the best tips I can do? And I made a card deck. I think it was just the beginning of the pandemic. Did a card deck, hired a professional illustrator, and I sketched out a bunch of initial illustrations, like simple vector illustrations that are like make the tips actionable. Have you tried the Brian Eno week strategies?
No, I'm not familiar.
Those are like little creative prompts that say, do the opposite, or try in reverse, or little creative prompts to get you out of ruts. And so for me, I was like, let's make a product that can get people into the flow state quickly for you.
Yeah.
And that's really the purpose. I didn't even know the purpose of it until I finished it. I was like, oh, this is about jumping into the flow state and staying there as long as possible and then being able to do that again and again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the flow state is like a hot topic these days amongst like producers and like trying to figure out how to get into that. Because I don't know about you, but like in my personal experience, the mental side of producing outside the technical side is like literally half the battle. It's just like being able to get into that mental space where you feel the freedom to create and get out of your head and get into your body.
Yeah.
Just like really go through the motions and not overthink the process.
And to plumb the subconscious, I think now I'm thinking more about that, of thinking about not thinking, like getting in the studio and doing your own top lines and doing it from mumble tracks, turning those mumble tracks and having them morph into the real lyrics. I think that's what songwriters do every day. A lot of people don't even mention that. Most people, that's how they work. Like they find a shape and a melody and a syncopation and a rhythm for a lead track, and then they just parse that out and eventually have to make sense of it and be an editor. But you've got to start with a mumble track and go from there.
Yeah. And I think that was like one of the things we talked about in your article and your quick tips is like 5 ways to reduce complexity. And you talked about like finding that sweet spot and avoiding diminishing returns is like one of the things you're talking about, but that was pretty interesting.
Especially with bubbles. Now I'm thinking even more about game staging. All these little maintenance things that seem nerdy or too technical are really important. Like, if you get your gain staging wrong, you're painted into a corner later on. And now with 32-bit, it's like, I always thought, I've been using 32-bit to know where, like, okay, if I overdid something, I can pull it back and not have equipment. But now I didn't think you could take a really quiet recording. You can pull it up and not have noise. Never thought of it until a couple of days ago. Something like that Road was talking about AirPods genius. It's like, so just, there's no reason to record stuff super hot unless you're going for you can clip it later.
Yeah.
But now it's like, man, you have so much more flexibility, especially with stems. So I'm rendering all the stems at 32-bit.
Really?
And just finding that sweet spot to record it, keep it in the green.
Yeah.
Don't go into the L. You can do that later on for a really hot mix.
Yeah.
And it sounds so good. That's,
Yeah, so would you say that like oftentimes when you're producing or like in the early mixing process, whatever you want to call it, like are you typically producing or working with a clipper or limiter on the master, or do you kind of add that towards the end?
I love that method, flip to zero, that some people have gotten into lately. I guess people have been doing that for a while, but it's sort of like max it out later on at the other side of the fader. And I like to clip it and just bring it down and chop off these peaks where if there's a lot of data in there that is taking away bandwidth, like little ticks and plosives, things like that, where they're not adding any emotional resonance to a track. And so if you can go in and surgically remove these, just find those clips that aren't improving the feel of the track, and then you have some sort of room. Then your compressors aren't overfiring and not latching on. So it's like getting rid of that unnecessary data. It's like you don't need every pixel in the image. If you're doing visual arts, it's like with audio, it's like get rid of that unnecessary junk that's taking up all the room. If it's not adding to the story of your song, it's not serving the song.
Sure. So are you talking about like clipping on the insert, like, or getting rid of it before, or like
It's funny. I'll kind of use a clipper to get rid of peaks.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, so go in there and be like, okay, just have it respond. So it's chopping off the head of these peaks that aren't adding it in the track, and so very selectively.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like standard flipper or something like that. I think we'd go for Studio DMI was showing and all that stuff. Or it's funny how sometimes these are counterintuitive. You can clip to make it sound more natural. You can use a phaser to make things more in phase. Like there's weird things that don't make any sense if you think about it, and they just work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like goes to the method of like if it sounds good, it sounds good. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like
While the big crusher, like reducing the information can add more texture, but I mean, that is distortion in a way.
yeah, like Ableton's Redux, I feel like is really underrated. Like that thing, you can definitely do that really well. And with the Live 11, they redesigned the interface and it gives you a little more flexibility with that driveway as well. It's
Yeah.
actually pretty cool.
The interface is nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Well, you're talking about stems and remixing. I saw you post on Instagram recently. It was like a really fun story about how you got the stems to do a remix for Warner Brothers for Stevie Nicks. That's actually a really fun story. How like Prince is actually a part of that recording as well for a mid track. Like, can you share that story? I think that was really really fun.
Yeah, so I think it's funny because even though he has 50% writer credit in the song, I mean, that's very generous with Stevie Nicks that he came in, the song was almost there, and because they heard this song, did a rough demo, like Stevie Nicks heard the song in her head while listening to a Prince song, and they quickly laid it down. She was on her honeymoon, she recorded the honeymoon suite, they laid down the demo, but it wasn't all there yet, and it needed this lift that Prince played some keyboards on it, just some arpeggios, some simple things, but that's all it needed to be the engine that kind of pushed the song along. So he didn't even do that much, but he was a big inspiration for the song. He ended up being 50%.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. And he was sort of like a reluctant collaborator on it, but it turned out to be just what the song needed. And the other funny thing was that Jimmy Iovine produced that record, a full album of her, I think. And he was no more of a music producer back then before he was a beats guy or an Apple executive, so not retired.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember you mentioning also in that process of working with those stems that there was like all kinds of like Stevie was like tapping the microphone stand and like all kinds of weird artifacts and stuff that I think a lot of producers would probably be like, oh shit, to really mess with this out. But like it added probably some interesting character just having like raw and like imperfect stems to where in the beginning. I remember talking about that process of like working with that.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to get rid of every flaw in the recording. I think if you try to have no noise at all in a recording, it takes the life out of it. Like a little noise in a Mac recording is great.
Yeah.
As long as it's, a little noise floor is fine. As long as you're not, I did some podcasts where guys were like thumping the table, having the mic, so just pick at everything, and it was very distracted on them. So
Yeah.
with her, she was smacking the mic, and I think I was able to sidechain it out enough. Or you do sort of so you can gate it out or do something selective. Maybe Isotope RX, you could paint that area out.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes you hear these old recordings and there's tons of bleed. A microphone. I think I was doing like a spec remix for Sinatra, and you had all this mic bleed where they would just have one mic up and three singers, and you record the whole band with like a couple of mics. So that's pretty tough to isolate. Maybe now with AI stem, like music rebalance and Isotope RX could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, if you ever like are trying to work with just vocal audio, I've never tried it with instruments before, but it's Adobe. I mean, they're investing really heavily in AI tools right now, mostly for video, But podcasts.adobe.com, I think I mentioned this on the podcast before. It's been amazing whenever I've had a guest on the podcast or doing like voiceover work. Like we just upload it and it feels like cheating. It's better than a lot of isotope stuff I've used.
Really? And which Adobe product?
It's free. It's Adobe podcast.adobe.com.
Okay.
It's incredible. Like I've never played with any kind of vocal isolation or like restoration tool like it. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's gonna be like there's gonna be Ableton generative Photoshop fill soon. It's got to do drum fills and
Yeah.
I saw somebody posting that.
Yeah, I believe it, man. I think that's the future where, I mean, how do you feel about people using music or how people using AI as almost like a crutch for their music or using it as like a main source for generating a lot of their sounds and music? Like, what do you think about that?
I think sometimes we can criticize AI as being something totally different, and in a way we kind of be using it with Splice. So if you're leaning on Splice heavily for your samples, and
Yeah.
I do, I mean, I put duds,
Yeah.
then is that it's not AI. I know that's kind of where they're headed, like, and being able to identify these sounds, and they're probably heading towards a totally different business model. But I think we can lean too heavily on certain tools like Ableton or Splice. But does that hurt the art? I don't know. With Mid-Journey and things like the visual side, it's insane. I mean, we used that in the last single artwork.
Oh, really?
The someone we're just listening to, that's cool. We did and you can upload the stills from Mid-Journey into Kura or something that turns into the video. Something goes from a still to the video.
Really? What's that calling?
I think it's Kura.
Like C-U-R.
Gotta check. Kura.
I'm curious. I edit everything with we gotta do the capture motorcycles. Give me Google. Or it's so hard to guess the right one. Like when it's asking.
It's like, no, it's in this other frame.
Yeah, it's like the tip of the stairs is in another.
Or Caliber. No, I think it's Kura. They're also the same.
It is Career Technology. No, that's prototypes.
I'm not showing it.
Generator.
There's so many that, and it's hard to keep track of it now, but there's the music LM of the AI stuff I haven't been blown away with yet. I know it's going to be there, but I think on the visual side, the journey, and then there's one I was just messing with the other day where you could type a word and then it'll create an image and it'll bury the word in the image. So build like palm trees around, but if you put your artist name in there, it'll build a whole tropical scene. You say what scene you want, you say what word you want to hide in there, and it'll build that in a pattern.
That's interesting.
Yeah, which is nuts.
Yeah, weird. There's so many different tools popping out there right now. Those are really bad ones, but there's some really good ones too.
Once ChatGPT, the visual modalities got unlocked, it just started last week, I think.
Yeah,
That's gonna be exciting.
yeah, definitely.
But I wonder with the audio, it's gonna be like, oh, you could improve this part in mix. If you upload an audio, but why does my mix sound better? It could say, oh, you should be sidechaining with a shorter envelope, and
Yeah,
stop sidechaining to the kick and do it to this click instead for one control.
totally. It'd be like the AI new Clippy. Yeah, but that'd be like on Windows, there's like a little paper clip that would show up and give you tips on your desktop. I want to see like an AI that and inside the Ableton Live, be like, oh, your kick's a little too loud, like.
And especially now that I didn't try, but I just didn't be able to type the voice feature. So it's kind of like the movie Her, like you can talk to her, naturally talk to such a line back and forth.
That movie was crazy. I had dreams about that movie after last year. I mean, that's gonna happen. I mean, you think about Neuralink and just all the things that are coming in the future. It makes you wonder. Also, I know that you're really into like the technology thing, and you drive Tesla, and did you power like your entire home from satellite or from solar?
Yeah.
And
I got to add the Starlink. I didn't pull the trigger on Starlink yet. No, that's supposed to be great.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who actually uses it, but I think it's like even like $200 a month or something.
It's kind of pricey.
Yeah.
Whereas you'd have to cut the cable plug and really go, get rid of your whole bundle with cable and stuff and just do that. But yeah, it's a little pricey for just internet.
Okay, so you get the standard version for $90 a month.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But that's in like low capacity areas, up to $5,000 a month if you want like the full package for unlimited data everywhere, I guess.
I was thinking of maybe doing that for remote sets. Like during the pandemic, I did these like drone sets. So we'd go and record with like two people, like one drone operator, one camera guy, and thinking like, and for one of those we did solar. So we had a battery up with the solar panels, and it's not so good at a sunset set, but and it's like, oh, but I got nothing to juice in the battery, but you don't want to be carrying stuff up to the top of the mountains. That's the hard part. This thing too really heavy. But yeah, I run the whole set off of batteries with those that tiny little like Pioneer all-in-one DJ controller, like record without speakers.
That would be amazing.
And that's how I did a bunch of the sets and just did silent shoots. But that would be the next step. Do it live with the Cascade did that for the Grand Canyon. They did it like this bonded modem backpack thing, where they a Deck thing. So they had like this backpack with a bunch of routers and 5G modems, and he did his whole Grand Canyon set live because he had like an access point. That's amazing. Yeah. So I just the Starlink you could use to do the same thing. Just that little satellite up.
Totally. And that would be wild. Yeah, I mean, sky's the limit for that kind of stuff. That'd be really interesting. I watched a documentary the other day on nuclear fusion and how close we are to like basically the output is greater than the input of the energy. So it's just like limitless energy. And a lot of private companies are basically all claiming now we're like between 10 to like 20 years away from that. Wow. So then it makes you wonder, like, you don't have any problems covering anything at that point. So what does that look like for batteries or for anything in the future? What we have with hydrogen would probably be more, like for like smaller household things or like batteries for cars. But when it comes to like fusion, and think about how many times you ran out of battery power for something. I think in like 30, 50 years, that's never going to probably be much of a thing anymore.
I feel like it's so clunky with video stuff. Like when I was doing live streams, just batteries seemed stupid. Like I just put dummy batteries in to the AC power supply, just have everything wired up and everyone's out of batteries. It's like several less things to worry about when you're doing a shoot.
Yeah.
Just have them hooked up to a nice big battery or into the wall.
Yeah. The world we live in, you always see people who are like older and they're like, back in my day, but like, it's going to be weird to see what technology looks like 15 to 20, 30 years from now. So speaking of music, I love your music. I talked about, like your synth leads are so thick and juicy and they just have like this beautiful presence. Like, what are some of your favorite synths that you like to use, and maybe share a couple of different tricks you do for like just dialing in a lot of your synths?
Yeah, so I like to layer both real synths, hardware synths and soft synths. On the soft synth side, I really like Serum, like Omnisphere, Keyscape, all the Spectrasonic stuff. It's just amazing. It is. About the expansion packs. I feel like I always come back to Omnisphere. And it's just a matter of organizing. If you got to go through those thousands of patches and rank them, and save them properly. But I have I have some analog stuff. I don't use as much as I think I would. But I got the Osmos synth, which is insane. When you can do vibrato on the keys, it has this crazy aftertouch where it was like you're playing the 5 different patches. You play in one patch, but if you just do a very light touch per slow attack, it sounds different. You strike it, you release, it has a whole different sound.
Yeah, it's an MPE. It's nice.
Yes.
It's almost like a nice synth out of debut with the Rolly.
Right. It's like Rolly done right.
Yeah.
It's like I had some of the other Rolly, like the mini Rolly keyboards, and it just felt hard to play. And this one is like, especially for pads, and for playing stringed or flute instruments, where it's very hard to get the vibrato right. A Stone Cashmere's got to get one of these things. Like, it's already made me it's helped me do like 5 songs, or it's already paid for itself. That's cool. It's not crazy expensive. It's average. Listens are like over $2,000, and the hardware, because of the workflow, I at least have hardware less. But I have a Prophet 08. I have a bunch of Daysman stuff. OB6. I have the Hydrasynth. I love little keyboard. Like the Hydrasynth is this tiny little keyboard. This was it the Explorer? I forget which one I have. But you can run off batteries if you want. But it's just having these huge sounds, like using that just for bass lines. This past year, I think the best investment for studio was getting those synth racks, so you can have multiple layers of synths be playing them all at once instead of doing layer by layer. And you do it like the Relay Show style, Paul Schaefer, like having playing, your chords with one hand, your lead, another synth, or in bass on the one, and you come up with totally different composition ideas. That's really cool. Even this week, I put a synth on top of my upright piano, and which is not a typical pairing. And I found it pretty quickly because it fell off of almost trash my OB6. But like I've seen some guys like John Bryan put their keyboard on top and play the bass with that. So all in a bass drum and then play their leads on the piano, like cool those things. But because you're composing in real time, you can write songs much faster. Versus like, all right, let's loop it, do another pass. Hey, it's an
Yeah. Have you ever used an instrument rack to like split like a bigger keyboard in half in zones?
That's another great way to do it.
Yeah, you could also do that too if people listening only have one keyboard, maybe you could want to do that too.
Split it in zone, or just stack it completely. If you want to have everything firing at once, you could do that too.
Yeah.
Or like an atmosphere of different pad zones. Like the live mode around too is pretty cool. But there's something about like muscle memory where I go, okay, this bass is over to the left, and then this pad's over to the right, and you're standing up and operating this different space.
Yeah.
When I started, I remember making music standing and just with an MPC and a couple of MIDI keyboards. And in college, it was like I had this cheap IKEA vertical stand, and it was like because I was standing, I made different music.
Yeah, I think like that goes back to the flow state a little bit, kind of getting into that motion of like getting comfortable and playing.
Yeah.
Physically, like tangibly playing sounds.
Even with push, I use the push. That's a different mode, and I'll be focusing more on the shapes of chords.
Yeah.
So I'll play like triangle chords. So I'll invert those with my left hand, and then I'll be playing the lead with my right, like doing arpeggios with right hand.
Yeah.
And you get totally different results because it's different muscle memory than the fretboard on the guitar or piano.
Yeah, and then I'm excited for the new Push 3 to arrive because it's just like the pads and the EP are like so sensitive. You can do it's like up to 20. I might be wrong. It's like 20 different zones within a pad basically for you like how to dial it in. So it's like there's so many different things that we do within just one little pad on the Push 3.
I gotta try that because now this having the Osmos keyboard is the first like really good MPE example I've seen where I think Spectrasonics might be working on some stuff. Once they convert on this here so that you can trigger it with this MPE controller, it's going to be insane because you're getting way more depth to your patches. Instead of having to use a different patch, you're just playing the sound differently.
Yeah, exactly.
I think downside is enables that you run into quantizing all these layers. Like now I've got it's like 12 layers of MIDI coming in. It's like, can you quantize all of those or can you just do the notes? And you'd have to kind of draw in. Like if I want this filter effect to be on the beat, I'm going to have to go in and manually add some of that in. So if anyone knows a really good solution, I know some actual live devices that'll quantize automation lanes, but
so when it comes to MIDI specifically, and this isn't also just the timing of the MIDI, there's the MIDI quantize like device, but you're talking about
like automation
of like
after touch, pressure, channel pressure stuff. Where honestly, what I've done lately is I've started to record synths live and not quantize them. Like definitely have very quantized synths, but then I'll use the Osmo, so I just won't use it in MIDI mode, and I'll just. Let's get some bugs and some quirks with it. But I'll just record it live, and so not all the notes are hitting at the same time. It's a strum.
Yeah.
And then it's like just arrives on the beat, and that sounds so cool.
Just
spread those notes out.
It's like that flam kind of sound.
Yeah.
It's not perfectly layered in together.
It sounds so different. It's like just like you would piano. You could do that obviously with the Randomize, Grooveful, and Ableton.
Yeah.
But like. Why would you have all the notes firing at once? I did that for some of these songs. It was just like, bam, all the notes in the chord voice at once. It's like, no, just, it doesn't have to be a strum, but just spread out just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe the third note is on the grid. It's on the quarter note.
Yeah, probably be a lot easier just to play that if you can. Typically, like, I'm not a keyboardist, I'm more of a drummer than anything. So usually I'll go to the MIDI clip and I'll just like highlight one note at a time. Just hit like command the arrow right or left and just like give it a little nudge, just a little baby nudge.
I have to play everything. I know I'm kind of jealous of guys. I remember there's so many producers I talked to some Disney producers and they'd be like, what's a converter? I'm like, what do you mean that's a converter? And they're like, I don't use one because it's all sauce, and so I just pencil it on with MIDI. I'm not bringing any audio in.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to convert your monitor at some point. But it was so funny talking to like really talented producers that were like, I owe me for a input converter. Yeah. And they wouldn't have any latency issues, but I can't like jam out on the pencil tool. For me, it's like I gotta play that live and
Yeah.
drop it in there.
What did you grow up like taking piano lessons? Like, was that a big part of your music journey?
A couple of years of piano, and it was just theory was so dry, and I think that a lot of music education turns people off to the possibilities of music. Band is so stiff, and it's still the same way. Like I've got two young girls now, and I want to change the way that they learn music because it's still like, oh, rent a bassoon or a French horn, for $2,000, or rent it from the school, and it's you've got this expensive instrument. It's not going to carry you through the rest of your life. Some people, maybe they're going to go off to a conservatory and study it, but if it was a guitar or piano is a lifelong instrument, but that's not part of it. Damn, I guess that would be like an independent study.
Yeah.
Oh, I really think that there should be more like these songwriting schools at with one in Stockholm where they just surround kids with instruments. I mean, Music Carta, or like Max Martin, sort of, or the most famous online, where they surround the kids with instruments and they say, pick the one that speaks to you.
Yeah, that's cool. See, that's awesome because typically it's like, what instrument do you ought to play? And you choose it, stick with it, rather than being able to test and experiment with a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, and like, would you even have the opportunity to try? Like, I tried cello. Like, all these instruments are so hard to get one note out of one.
Yeah.
To get one really solid note with the cello, it takes a lot of work, and gotta have the rosin. It's gotta like the bow has to be coated properly, and
Yeah.
and you worry about breaking this expensive instrument.
Yeah, for real.
Thousands of dollars.
Yeah. It's a weird fault. My mom has so much patience because I chose the drums at a very young age. And I just banging drums and the whole family's wearing earplugs. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting, like the future of music education. And I know that you did a lot with VR, which I'd like to also talk about, which is really cool. I think that the future of education is going to be like really enhanced with VR and VR technology, and even with music. Like if you had the instrument, I imagine even just wearing a headset, like the learning experience could be a lot more visual and dynamic, expressive, even with like having a whole new world to learn inside of. And I think that's where a lot of it's going to be going.
Yes.
Not even just with music, but just learning in general. You know, I know there was like a doctor who was working on cancer, like a cancer treatment, and he said that he couldn't visually see the depth of detail and interact with whatever he was trying to do. And so they were actually building the model in VR for him to be able to interact with like these cells and stuff, which is really interesting.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to use it. I feel like to be able to manipulate things, it's all about how natural the interface feels. Like some of the or painting tools in VR, there's just incredible tools, and then some games that are kind of gimmicky. And we did some projects with Beat Saber, which was fun. You know, rhythm games, and it's whatever can make people excited in the environment, keep them moving their body. It's just a cool experience. It was fun to have a song in there, but it was signed exclusively just for Beat Saber.
Yeah.
So cool. But I don't know. Now it's like I went on this deep dive into 3D printing recently, and it's like that world of creating 3D models and seeing how things fail and how they work. I'm just like now like on this was so much more intuitive with a headset. We can get a push and call the models, border
And design it like to print it later. Is that what you're thinking?
yeah. You have to build 3D. It feels very strange to be using a mouse or touchpad to keep flipping these models around. Or if you're using your hands. So we did some video experiences for Oculus. It was so expensive to do it that thank God like Facebook or Meta now they paid for it. But it was pretty early days. Like we didn't put the Quest out, and I remember that it was just funny early on. There's so many iterations of it. I think now I'm really shocked that Apple has theirs. Yeah, that's pretty amazing, and I hear it's actually pretty good. Yeah, the vision's cool. The other stuff. It's funny because I think all these products haven't taken off, but they're incredibly compelling. When you go and use some of the experiences, it's truly mind-blowing. If you've got a powerful enough PC and got the space to do it, got the real estate, the Vive, the HC Vive was really impressive.
So for anybody who doesn't know, like when you were working on this project, how long ago was that? The DR song that you created?
Might have been 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. and like it was almost more of a lyrical experience, wasn't it? Whereas a lot of lyrics that were dynamic kind of coming at you as the music was playing. Was it in like surround or like
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a good point because so we did a thing with DTS, which is like a sort of like Dolby surround sound, but it's like Dolby Atmos. So we did DTS headphone X, which would, basically on headphones it would sound like you have 11.1 surround sound, which was really cool. But weird stuff happens when you start to take the stems and push them into surround would just be kind of like the horizon, but these have overheads and there's sound behind you and in front of you that your brain doesn't always interpret this. It doesn't just instantly sound amazing. And in fact, you actually hear more flaws because you're like, oh, the background vocal is scrambled out of time. And you start spreading these things out and it might sound a little less phasey. So there was some stuff to learn with that. But so we did one for In the Air, we did one for Open Hour. And the idea was like, what would it be like if the song is a world and you're inside that world? That's versus the song just being projected at you from speakers.
yeah,
Which is really cool. It's immersion. That was the goal.
yeah.
One was on sort of on rails experience. The in the air was like you're flying through space, and as you move the headset, the sonority changes. So that's amazing.
That's negative.
And then the other one was more designed for mobile, for Gear VR. That's what it was called at the time. The headset. So that was cool because you could view it in your timeline feed on Facebook on the news feed with your phone and move around, and it would pan around like in 360.
Okay. But the audio was probably still stereo at that point.
I feel like it got kind of mixed down to stereo.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, I think Melody now it does have Atmos support, but with each iteration of it, it was just cool to have a visual component locked to music that wasn't just a standard music video.
Yeah.
It was like you were interacting with music video.
That's really cool. Like, I love seeing artists like you push the boundaries like that rather than I'm just going to release another music video and try to make it creative and put it out there and then move on. Like, you're trying to like break the boundaries of like what a typical music video looks like and doing something creative like that.
Yeah, it felt in line with what we were doing with like the tour. We did a 3D tour. We created these environments in Unreal where there was lyrics coming at you, and the lyrics would actually follow you. So you wear 3D glasses, and it's funny because it has pros and cons to that too. Like people will get so distracted they stop dancing to watch the visuals. What's wrong? Oh, they're just kind of mesmerized.
Yeah.
So like it's really important to use the technology in a way that serves the show and use it at the right volume. Don't use it too much. We'd have some songs that were flatter, and then others that would really pop with 3D, so you need that contrast. So all of these tools, different, some unexpected results. And it was so cool. So these were LEDs that are made for 3D visuals. They were offset. And so if you took your glasses off, you still see the images and be like a little fuzzy.
That's cool. Yeah, so it's like still an environment within an environment, basically.
Yeah.
For people to be in.
And the cool part is you could design a virtual DJ booth so people could see that, like, oh, maybe there's all these geometric shapes surrounding the things that you're DJing in a key, but there was like a fake booth that wasn't really there. But we just created that illusion with the LEDs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really, yeah, I love that. That's amazing. It makes you wonder, like, I mean, the future of music videos as we think of, like, rather than just being like a flat screen that you're watching on YouTube. I mean, the future when everybody has VR and it's more widely adopted eventually makes you wonder the possibilities of like being able to interact with people or even a live show. I think Tomorrowland did something like that. They tried to do almost kind of a VR experience.
Like the VR ticketing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But even at like another level, like imagine just looking over at your friend and you see your friend's avatar and you're actually with each other, but you're in a different, you're in your own home, but like you're actually with your friends and you can walk around like you would in a real festival in a real environment and like go up and see DJ. You can walk around, you don't have to be around a bunch of sweaty people. Yeah, like breathing on each other. And
obviously, as people get older, too, they don't want to go in those environments.
exactly.
Like Coachella, general admission, the Saracen.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about your outfit or, if you're too tired to like be social, just put on your VR and you can hang out and actually talk to other people and not being screaming over the music, but also enjoy the actual live experience.
Yeah,
I definitely think that's going to be happening.
Yeah, you need some alternatives. It doesn't have to be just all or nothing. Like, yeah. And I think like the Tomorrowland one was cool. It didn't feel as immersive Right. It was a little more on rails, but I think it was like a great step getting to where it should be. Right. It's kind of cool because you can buy like champagne and have it shipped to your house, like tamale and kava and champagne. Yeah. And that is, it's just fun to have that, like that at home experience.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. I mean, this is the Ableton Live podcast. I'd be curious to hear, like, if you were on a desert island and you could only take a couple Ableton Live devices or audio effects or instruments with you, like, what would you take?
I think the LFO tool and Max for Live, like not the Steve Duda one, but the one that I use that with the EQ8 and I use the turn that into a filter, just change the shape, to sawtooth, set 16th note to 8th notes. I use that and that's just scratching the surface. Like just map that to. I mapped it to the Foreman and little Alter Boy sound toys, and cool. Just so it's like just oscillating, changing the format just a little bit.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be using Max for mine devices.
Really?
And I use that like every day.
Mm-hmm.
Other go-to third-party ones, well, I mentioned Omnisphere and some of the synths. Vital is a really good like just incredible with sound. So Saturn would be Desert Island. I think my flow is getting more set it and forget it, and so I'm using the distressor as my like. If I could pick one compressor, it's the UAD distressor.
Oh, Sam, I love that thing.
I'm like, it. You can make it be subtle. You can have it be extreme. Why not use that? I overthink like what compressor I'm going to use. I think I used to really get into like, comparing like SSL versus Neve, and I mean for some people that makes a big difference, but I feel like it's better to have just good sound design, good choices, better composition, better processing chains in general.
Yeah.
And I have like a little strip of analog stuff that I have like the Avalon 737, a Purple Audio MC77, and an LA2A. That's like my go-to hardware chain, but I'll use that for everything. That's just for bubbles.
Yeah.
And some U5s, Aspel, Babylon here. And even cheap stuff. I like the Daft Punk compressor, the 3630 by Elysians.
Yeah.
It sounds incredible. It sounds better than $3,000 compressors. I've sold expensive compressors and used this $60 on Craigslist.
Oh, nice.
But the workflow of external gear just takes longer, so I'll deselect the software. What else? Desert Island. I think the Fat Filter stuff and that compressor actually sounds incredible. That's the sleeper.
Yeah, for C2 is ridiculous. Like, you could do so much.
Really get crazy sounds with very few artifacts. I use that limiter. I love the Pro. The Pro MB is pretty good with Fat Filter, but I like the Maximizer, UAD Pro Maximizer, one of their older plugins. It does like a 3-band maximizer. I remember Hardwell, a bunch of guys would tell me to use that. But I just set it and I keep it at 0. I don't like the input. I'm afraid of that. And what else? Oh, like the chamber, in terms of reverbs and things. Oh, Valhalla still.
Yeah.
I don't know how it uses it, but the delays.
Yeah, the delays. Yeah.
Like every other instrument itself.
Yeah, and he's got some good free plugins too on Valhalla. I mean,
The Supermassive, I messed around with that too.
yeah, that was really cool. It's got like a frequency modulator, a freak mod, and a reverb and a delay out of baby. It's got like a combo of all of them.
Oh, another one that's a lot of people don't know about. The super Paul Stretch. Have you used that?
No.
It's like that's the one that you can take like a 1 second of a Justin Bieber song, a girl with Justin Bieber, and it turns it to like Server and Ross.
Really? Like,
And take like a millisecond, like a 1 second sample, and stretch it out 14 minutes.
that's deemed excessive.
Yeah.
This thing?
Yeah.
Extreme Tide
Stretch. Anyone listening hasn't tried this yet, go try it. It's absolutely insane.
Hall X Stretch by Onosaurus.
It used to be only standalone, and you have to, but it'll render it out and just bring the file back in the meantime.
Interest. Yeah, there's a plugin called Lossy.
Is that Good Hertz?
Yeah, Good Hertz. That thing's kind of fun. You can get some like really weird. This thing, you can get some really weird kind of stress artifacts out of audio as well.
Or for pleasing.
It is. Yeah.
Let me try it. I've only used the tremolo and the Wolf compressor with that.
Yeah, which is fun. I've gotten some fun results from it. Like if you take any kind of like sub synth or pad or something that's a little bit of a longer kind of smooth sound, you can add a lot of texture to it. Like this thing. Okay, I'm trying it. It's really fun. It's cheap too. I think they give it to me. No, it's not cheap. It's $79. I thought it was cheap, but not. Maybe there's a bundle. Buy it on Christmas and it'll be a deal.
kick, or is there any other, it was set like there was an 80s reverb that they had or something crazy.
And you played with spectral resonator.
Yes. Oh, that's the best.
That thing is so good for just like stretching and doing weird stuff to audio.
The only thing I've heard is it adds a delay to it, adds some weird latency, but I just warp it, I just freeze it, and that is I do that and I set it to MIDI to like chords and stuff, and then crank up the decay on Wander, I think.
It says 32 milliseconds latency just over and over in a blank cog different.
I wondered if it's Ableton's got some weird stuff like that. Now there's like a big CPU spike with this when it auto updates sometimes. But that, even with Apple Silicon, it's like
I think with Flight 11.3, they actually tried to mitigate some of that. I don't know if you're on the newest one, but Point 3, I read that in the update.
there's some weird quite
Yeah, they tried to reduce the latency.
I still think they could optimize it for Apple Silicon a little bit better. And such a jump forward. Like, oh my god, yeah, as Mac Studio.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, for the money compared to the trash can Mac Pro that I had in 13, that was $9,000 to get 13.
it's pretty. Yeah, there's gonna be landfills of those everywhere in like 5 years.
It was easy with them. It's
Yeah.
worth like $50 now, or $100.
Yeah, people are trying to get rid of them. I mean,
I mean, even the big towers, like the old Mac Pros, which I'm so glad it, sorry to anyone who bought that tower that is like, it's like slower than, it's like a $15,000 tower that's slower than the Mac Studio.
yeah, you buy an M1, it's quicker. Right? There's no fan. There's no noise, right? With the M chips.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. It's so, and I feel like the machine barely gets hot. Like you touch it, it's like still cold.
Yeah,
That's cool. But I think it's nice to see some sea changes. Like, I think for a while in the audio world, there were not any major changes involved diminishing returns. Like, converters have gotten as good as they're going to get for what you can hear. And then the recently, I think, the Osmos keyboard, that's going to be a game changer for sure. And amplifying him, but none, and then all they had is stuff, of course. Yeah, but everything else has kind of been like as good as it's going to get for a while.
We'll see. That's what I always think until something happens out, and who really knows? It's crazy. So another thing is, like, you're pretty well known for your vocals. I mean, you have a lot of songs with vocals. I'd be curious to know, like, what does your typical vocal processing look like? Do you like to record a lot of vocals in person? Do you usually record remotely with sounds?
I feel like I will record people in person and I get better results sometimes because I actually can record them the wrong way, like too hot sometimes, and it has a little character. So I'll use that channel strip of the Avalon, the 737, the MC77, just like an 1176 clone, and LA2A. Speaking of numbers, but I'll have like that simple kind of tried and true processing chain that I have no vocal booth. I don't even use the eyeball or any of those acoustic treatments things. I mean, my studio is treated, but I think my biggest songs I've done in person they're so tedious. Like we'll start with the mumble track right there and record that and chop that out before we even get to like the key phrases of the song. But they're singing right behind me. They're not in the booth, and I love that result because there's so much in the competent vocals and your choices but I think it's been just for the sake of speed and sort of the top-down process that the music world works. A lot of times I just get stems, and there's not a whole lot I can do to them.
Yeah.
And, I have backing parts, and I'll often use the wet version instead of just the dry, but it's, you'd think, I don't know, I don't get to hear all these other interesting clicks and outtakes. And so I miss that part of it, but I don't miss the tediousness of comping vocals.
Yeah.
That let me know my own vocals, which is really interesting. And seeing like, okay, how little origin can I use? Just stop. I'm still leaning on it. But like, how can I get a stronger voice to sing guide vocal up? And maybe this song is right for me. Maybe this is sung in a couple of my own songs. I don't really like publicize that. I usually do backgrounds.
Yeah, I didn't know that you sang actually in background.
I do the best I can, and sometimes it really works well for the track. And sometimes I'm like, ooh, like that's just not right. That's not your range.
Yeah.
And I really, it's funny. I know Ari was taking some vocal lessons with Valerie Morehouse, who did Drew Chainsmokers, Sam Smith. She does all the pop stars, and I think that's really cool. Though, like, you don't have to have the best, be born with the best pipes in the world, but if you can find your best voice and strengthen it,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to get better at getting sing. But the fact that I know how to process the vocals and I have a very special way of layering them is so cool to your own vocals. The other problem is then you've heard the song too many times.
Yeah.
So like when you have collaborators, it's like you're paying for that distance and that freshness of ears, just like you're hired a mix engineer if you've heard it too many times.
Yeah.
So okay, so what I do to get the sound that I like to do, obviously there's a lot of top end EQ, but it's really more about doing whisper takes, getting the lowest level with pitch, which is hard to do and it can strain the vocal cords sometimes.
Really?
But I just have them do, once we've settled on the lyrics, they'll do your background vocals before you figured out that you finalize your vocal, your lyrics, because then you're going to go back and re-record everything.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. I mean, because you're so excited to get to the window dressing. It's like, oh, no, the chorus is different now.
Right.
I'd like to go and do the whisper takes, do mid-range doubles, full version doubles, do harmonies, do whisper takes to the harmonies, and then blend those in, and you get this fullness depending on the vocalist. Some vocalists, the voice is so thick that it just doesn't sound right to have layers, and they're too raspy sometimes. But even with Lissy, like the girl that did Longest Road, and we did a ton of stuff together. I just know how to treat her voice. It sounds different on her other records. We've been working for so long together, but she sings very loud. And I'm trying to get her to sing more quietly and then amp that up later on. But it's like, I think a little bit of 2 EQ from the Ableton is nice. But not the software, just good plugins. I feel like good hardware will allow you to use less plugins, which is nice. You get a good starting one. Oh, Manly, massive. That's bad. Whole was great. Like, how did you not? Like, everything sounds better on the main mix with that one. I used to use that more on buses than Sweat. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, well, it's standard clip. It's another one.
Standard clip's great. Yeah, I just am a master.
Up in the interface, ugly as hell.
It looks like Windows XP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really does. It's so ugly, but it sounds amazing. I feel like I can drive stuff and get it really loud with that thing, and it still sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like those Lino's 95.
Doesn't it do like 100 and something oversampling, 100 and something times oversampling? It's ridiculous. Yeah, this plugin, for anybody watching the video, it's stupid. How far does it go? Yeah, 256 times oversampling.
Yeah.
The computer's instantly just going to start crying.
Yeah, it's like, what computer are you running?
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, it's funny. I run everything at 44K, 32-bit. I know a lot of guys do 48, but it's like, who's writing stuff at 96? Like, what computer do you have?
Yeah.
Do you have like a server array somewhere? Like, is it your composer? Like, if you're Tom Holcomer, Dr. Excel, and you're running strings, you have like a closet full of servers just running your Vienna strings for Mad Max.
That's more power to you.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Oh, another one. God, I keep thinking of the Dark Zebra and Zebra synth from UA Audio.
UA has a UF Zebras, and
Yeah.
I've never heard of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Zebra, the workhorse set.
Yeah. That's what you hear that all the Hans Zimmer stuff.
Yeah, I mean
I think the hard part now is managing overwhelm because there's so many good choices.
like that's true, man. There's a lot of information overload, and people just keep buying plugins but still don't know how to songwrite.
Right.
Yeah, that's a dangerous thing. I actually heard you talk about that in one of your interviews about how like songwriting first before engineering, and a lot of people get hung up on just trying to tweak the EQ and everything else to try to get something really good, but in the end, the song needs more work. It's not necessarily just making a great kick, you know?
Yeah. It's so easy to keep polishing something it's not resonating. But I'll hear demos. I mean, there's so much good music coming in. Like, it's rare to hear bad these days, but from what I hear is that there's some stuff where I'm like, wow, they can really process this. That probably we're focusing on parallel compression and not like, oh, a better vocal hook or totally drum compression is not going to make your song any better.
Exactly.
Yeah, and make it punch a little more, and then you get the vocal, maybe the vocal jump out better, but it's like, yeah, it's window dressing at the end of the day, and it's more of a commodity skill. Like, I mean, not to write off engineers, but if you start with better samples and you arrange it properly, you don't have to do so much mixing and mastering at the end.
Yeah, that's true. Sam, yeah, I feel like the more I've been producing, the more picky I'm with my starting samples rather than trying to morph it into something interesting, which also still happens too. Sometimes it's creative accidents, happy accidents that can come out of just messing with sounds. But yeah, starting with really good quality sounds or samples or patches makes all the difference.
And I think if you spend too much time on one sound or it'll just mutate, it won't necessarily get better. So sometimes different is not better. And I remember I was like auditioning all these hardware compressors on the master mix. So like, oh yeah, is this any better? I'm like, no, sometimes it just got worse and it's the $3,000 less, special SSL clone. And like, such a waste of money and went a rabbit hole, So I gotten way more out of buying good instruments. I think every studio should have a guitar and a piano and various synths. Like, I'm never mad that I'm out of an instrument, but I'm mad that I went down a rabbit hole with too much processing here.
Do you feel like you equally use all of the instruments that you purchase in your studio?
No, I don't use the bass guitar much at all because it just doesn't have that presence that a synth bass has.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I'll sit down. I have this old Steinway. It's 70 years old, and I mean, I didn't even realize how much a new Steinway costs. It's insane. It's with a house or a dog. This is like an old, cheaper upright, but it has a certain sound to it that I'll layer it in. But I use it more for writing than for. I'd rather use like the atmosphere piano or something, and then layer that underneath. But it just sounds like it's so sensitive, like every little sound of the hammer and the foot pedal, the sustain pedal. It's almost hard to use that. I like to play things much more simply. I think now my thing is, okay, play it through. I'll do a take with some chord progressions and then play it half as complex. It sounds so much better. And then I'll fix the pitch drift and melodyne. So that's my favorite thing to do is take older instruments or acoustic instruments and run those. I use Melodyne more for instruments than vocals.
Really?
I'm too lazy. I use Ableton and I don't even use the graphical view. I'll just do Ableton vocals. And Melodyne, you're going to get more natural result probably, unless you have to really pencil things in. But man, like if I notice that the piano, the tuning, it's never perfectly in tune. You get it in tune, but it's always like, there's a little bit of drift in there, and I hear that. I'm like, I can't. Our ears so used to everything being in tune.
It's true.
So it's almost like keeps you from using the live instruments because they're just a little off. But that can add a nice vibe to it.
Yeah, it's like a realness.
Just a little bit, and it'll layer better and have less phase issues probably because it's just in one string. The action at that part of the neck, the tension's a little different.
Yeah, unless your mic placement's off and you have two mics.
Yeah,
You might use utility to fix that fit.
Yeah, phase is probably something. I wish someone would explain it easier, but I saw Dabblev posted recently, like how to visually see. Like Shaper Box is really good for that. You can see the phase in your sidechain if like the bass and the kick are fighting each other. But still probably better just to use your ears. But if you can see it visually, that is a really handy tool.
Yeah, typically I've just been really lazy when it comes to that. If I think something might be out of phase, which honestly doesn't happen very often, but I feel like if it is, I'll just throw utility on it on the insert at the beginning and then just like hit the left or right and just see if anything sticks out or if it disappears.
Yeah, it's very easy to go in and over-engineer and be like, okay, every sound is in key.
Yeah.
I've tuned everything in the track and everything's in octaves or thirds or fifths. And everything's in time. We could like suck the whole life out of the track.
Yeah. I mean, phase is one of those like things people love to really exaggerate or talk about, but I also feel like as long as you're not doing any kind of crazy widening, or if you're not recording an instrument or something that has more than one microphone, you're probably fine. I mean, you're probably not dealing with much phase.
It's mono the bass up to a certain point.
Yeah.
And I used to get obsessed with like clubs that would sell everything to mono and being like, well, and it's true. I mean, it's in the club, you're never like, in the DJ booth, you're like, wow, this sounds wide, this sounds great. And then the audience is not hearing that.
Yeah.
They're not hearing how wide the track is. It's
true.
And they're not in the center of the track.
Yeah, that's true too.
So it's like this weird game of you're hearing, you get this myopia of in the DJ booth, you're like, this is wider and louder and better. And it's sort of like a false goal to be chasing. I just try to make sure nothing is totally collapsing. Things are not falling out completely because then you have a problem on mono systems. I think if things are collapsing and falling out completely, then something is definitely wrong in the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's going to sound worse in mono than stereo and a little quieter, but I don't know. I used to just obsess over that. Now I'm like, but now it's just like, if you can get into sound wide and then perfectly translate mono, then come good mix.
It's a good day. Yeah, that's true.
It's trade-offs though, right? Like, how wide do you need the shaker to be? Dude, that shaker was so good.
The shaker sounded amazing.
Yeah, that's the widest shaker. It's like saying that's the saltiest dish I've ever had. And
It's like that shaker ever. That auto tan. Yeah.
I appreciate the 16th auto pan with hand.
Yeah, it's just like at 181-degree phase. It's just like romance. Yeah, I would. So speaking of like playing live, are there any like really fun or wild tour moments you had? Maybe not this tour, but in the past that are worth sharing. Just like memorable things that have happened to you on tour.
Too many. Well, I'll tell you, I think when something terrible happens, equipment wise, technology, it's usually a silver lining and it makes me reevaluate the gear that I'm using or a process. Like I had this Allen Heath Zone 3 that I used on tour. I would pack it. I'd bring my own mixer, but I was playing in New Mexico, man, and the sprinkler system went off in the club. And it shorted up the mixer. And I went, no, it was white noise, and they had no rentals, and I had other shows on the tour.
Is this during your set?
Yeah,
Oh, damn.
yeah. And they're like, can you just hop on the CDJ? So I was up playing a laptop set. And I was like, that. And they're like, my tour insurance for that. Hopefully, I think we can dry it out.
Okay.
But it was the Allen Heath stuff's hard to rent, but that forced me to use Pioneer and just use that as a sound card, the DJM 900. Yeah. And with that turned out to be a huge improvement and much more helpful for touring, much easier to get.
Yeah.
And then that led to me to eventually transition to the CDJs. But it's funny. And also another nightmare that happened. I was playing at Burning Man and the Playa Dust was in all the buttons. So I went up to start my set. I pressed Q, nothing was working. I pressed play, nothing's working. I'm like, how do I play my set?
Why?
So I played off the hotkeys, which a lot of guys don't use. And I still don't understand why DJs don't use hotkeys because they're the best thing ever. Like, I remember markers are cool, but hotkeys and shit.
Absolutely. That's what I've used.
Color code them, use the tools. A lot of guys are very stubborn. They don't want to try new things.
Yeah.
Because they get a little bit
Pretentious.
Yeah, pretentious or superstitious about using the stuff.
Yeah.
Changing things. It's like even when they changed the filters on the Pioneer things, guys were freaking out. But anyway, so that led to, I worked with Pioneer on the next version of CDJs about later, Weather Seal. They created a Burning Man setup environment in their lab in Tokyo. So I consulted a little bit on this project, and I didn't realize they used some ideas because they'd never gone to Burning Man. So I said, send the engineers working the CDJs to Burning Man.
Yeah.
And like, because there's probably 500 pairs of CDJs being used all at once throughout Burning Man. Usually they keep them in garbage bags, keep the dust out.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, I've had friends, I haven't gone personally, but one of my friends does lasers for the main stage at Burning Man. And he, like, his entire rack of all this lasers and everything just spends weeks cleaning everything. It's just a mess.
I can't even imagine just getting this stuff out. It's just such fine powder.
Yeah.
I mean, Rex, it's already off your skin.
Yeah.
So, I got one more horror tour story for you. So Coachella, you only get 45 minutes to play. So this is years ago, way back, I think it was 2012, I was playing in the afternoon, playing Saraton, and SSDs weren't as cheap or as reliable as they are now.
Yeah.
And I never had any crashes, never had any problems with the computer. And I get up, and the stage starts shaking, and the hard drive goes into emergency mode and locks. And it goes, boom, reboot the computer. You hear the Apple start, oh man. Lost 15 minutes of my 45-minute set. Damn. That's the worst.
Oh, that sucks.
So, yeah, the stuff will happen at like you'll have no crashes for 6 years, and then at a high stakes moment, something will happen like that. And then you're over prepared, then you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. That's one reason I started doing a deep dive and learning more about redundancy and redundant rigs for anybody I've worked with or even for my own sets.
And I don't know if that's like standard now of the two computer setup. And there's is there a device that automatically will switch over?
Yeah, the iConnect is really probably the most popular interface for that, MIDI or audio. It's made to be able to run 2 laptops. It's really easy. Actually, you just plug in basically your connection, Thunderbolt or USB, I think, and then if the signal goes down, you have like a line over signal, and basically it'll switch over instantly.
And you have the two computers would play on the same time code or something.
Yeah, so you could use time code.
So smart because it's like it's not like bringing an extra laptop is that big of a initiative. It's like it doesn't even that much more really fit it in your bag the same day.
Oh, totally is. Yeah, and iConnect is definitely worth looking into for anybody that wants to do some kind of redundancy, for sure. And I love their interface. I have their Mio XL for my MIDI interface in my studio, which could also do that redundancy as well if I wanted to. But that thing is the tank, especially when you have so many MIDI connections that you're plugging everything into on computer. Yeah, but yeah, shout out to Laura Escadet. She taught a master track class down at Electronic Creatives, and she does playback for like Billie Irish, I mean, just like The Weeknd and all those people.
Wow. I think I met her when she was at M Audio. Or she was one of the artists, or she worked with them. Yeah, way back.
Yeah, she's brilliant. She's a real OG in that playback world for sure. Yeah. Actually, speaking of Coachella disasters, Electronic Creative, they actually asked me to do a playback for a very, very well-known artist that was going to be at Coachella. And then I got a call like a couple of days before I was supposed to fly out for it. And they said, this artist only wants a female team for a tour. I'm like, that's cool. I get it. It's fine. So apparently her show went down. Her rate went down at Coachella on main stage. And she had to do an entire set a cappella with her dancers.
Wow.
And I was like, that could have been me. That would have been my career. That would have been really terrifying.
Did you see when Cascade and Dead Mouse, when they did the KX5 thing and the power went out to like 20 minutes?
No.
Like there's a lot of stuff that's out of your control, and you gotta, and what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like power, like when they're just drawing touch power.
Yeah. And somebody got fired.
Yeah, somebody did. I think that's literally what they said.
Yeah, that's rough, man.
At SoFi Stadium. It was the SoFi Stadium. It was the Coliseum. It was a big
thing. That's like my biggest fear. Like my dream that night, because that night is like doing a big redundant gig for a big artist. It was just crashing. I mean, yeah. Well, hey man, this has been really awesome. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. I know we're running short on time, and I know you have to get to your gig.
Yeah.
But any last thoughts, questions, things you'd like to say to the people before we dip out and go to the show?
I have to say, yeah, check out the card deck. I have there's 20 decks left, and that's why I got the 3D printing stuff. Is I custom designed a new deck holder for them, so it's a special crazy metallic case that's designed to just be a limited edition thing. So I think there's 56 or 60 cards in them, but they've gotten this amazing reaction even from writers and people in the entertainment industry, even beyond music designers. So really proud of these. I'm just excited people to check them out, and hopefully I'll get another batch printing soon. But we do these like flash sales. Like I'll make 300, we'll sell out, we'll go on to the next one.
Yeah, and these are designed to like help people get into like the state of producing or different ideas or tips.
Yeah, get into a flow state, and they help. Yeah. They get some. Some are more music focused, others more general. Like one of them is like the rule of 3, that your brain can like really cognitively focus on 3 musical elements happening at once, and you work with these limits. Another one is like about circadian rhythms, that your brain works best for music. A creative jazz like morning and night, middle of the day, it's kind of a black hole. No excuse for not making music in the middle of the day, but if you follow these rules, it's up. If you don't follow these, it's like fighting gravity. And you might as well work when you're most productive. But when your logic rate is weak in the morning and night, it's just such an easy time to make music.
Yeah.
These are all things that help me, and they help people, and every card is a different one resonates with people differently. So like some people, there's one that's about color coding your cables and creating and naming nomenclature to them, like a naming series. And like name all your Samsung T5 drives after Marvel characters or colors or planets or whatever. Add novelty to your studio. And all these little things help you get into that flow state faster, so you're not the plumbing the studio and the non-creative parts throughout the process of making music. So you can get that career state and stay there, not switch between left, right, left, right.
Mm. Yeah, that's really cool. I know Quincy Jones, I forget what he called it exactly, but he said that whenever he had his best moments of inspiration, he would kind of do something similar where you're talking about like time of the day when your brain is like in that flow state. He would literally get to a point of where he would lay down on his back and put his legs on top of his bed. And he would just get to the point of where he almost drifted off to sleep. Or the alpha state. Yeah, the alpha state, exactly.
Yeah, and Rick Rubin.
Yeah,
Spent half his time laying down.
yeah. And then once he was about to like kind of get in that Zen state or fall asleep, then he would get up and start writing. And that's when a lot of his best work would come out.
That's a good reminder to do that in the studio. To always have a couch in the studio. Because I find myself leaning back in my chair and I'm thinking I'm just lazy. I'm like, no, I'm just doing Quincy Jones method.
Right.
But it's true. All this stuff it's helpful. You have to know how to mine your subconscious and do it intentionally in at first, then you forget that you work with that intentional process. But I think if you can get to that place and do it regularly,
Yeah.
all the better.
100%. Actually, that little bottle in front of me is there for a reason. That's yours. I think Magic Mind, they sponsored the podcast. They sent me a ridiculous amount of those. And at first I thought it was a hoax, but they advertise it helps you get into the flow state. It's like really, really high quality matcha and like tea and ashwagandha and like a bunch of different types of roots. It's all like natural, organic ingredients, but
ingredient olive oil?
yeah, I guess so. I think that's like kind of the base.
Oh no, that's the magic. That's the pasteurized one. And the first ingredient is matcha green tea.
Yeah, it tastes pretty good. I mean, for being like a bunch of grass type of flavors, it's actually pretty delicious. But I take one of those usually before the podcast or before like I'm trying to like focus, and it helps you like relax and get rid of like anxiety and just puts you in like a focused state of mind. It's actually really nice.
Cool.
It can turn into coffee for a lot of people, but yeah, if you want a couple to go, you can share them around.
Is this airport travel friendly?
I think so.
Yeah, so you should be.
Doesn't have any weed in there.
Yeah.
It should be covered. But yeah, man. Well, thanks again for joining the podcast. Like I said, I've been a long-time follower and stoked for all the future things you got releasing. Where's the best place for people to connect with you? I know that you mentioned the cards. That's available on morgan-age.com, right?
You can do the cards. So the MP Quick Tips. The best way to reach me is Instagram's at Morgan Page on Instagram. You can do mpquicktips.com. The cards are linked down there. There's also MP Quick Tips on Instagram as well. And I'm going to start doing more live streams where I focus on the cards and how to apply them, because I think it's one thing to make cards. It's another thing to know how to fit them into, make them actionable and stuff. So that's the reason I made the cards. Was like, I want people to have them sitting by their studio setup and not have to be like thumb into a book to read chapters. It's, I mean, here's some things you can focus on 3 cards or focus on one card in your session.
Yeah.
And see if it's helpful. So hopefully you can see samples of the cards on Instagram and see if it's something exciting. But I'm going to fire the store back up soon because they sold out. So I'm going to put the last 20 up. Man, cool. And I'm going to do that next week. So
yeah, congrats, man.
yeah, thank you.
I'm looking forward to checking them out myself too. Yeah, I love the quick tips and the stuff you've been cranking out. So everybody make sure you follow Morgan, give him a follow on Instagram, on the interweb, wherever you're at. And yeah, man, maybe we'll have you back another time.
Yeah, thank you.
Sweet. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
And stop button.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Do me a huge favor if you would and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you don't hate the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. It would help me out a ton. Don't forget to check back on Tuesdays for new episodes. I plan on cranking out a lot more in the upcoming future. Also, if you didn't know, on Spotify, if you click on an episode on mobile, you can interact there and you can tell me what you think about this episode and other episodes, and it would be great to hear from you and see what you're thinking about the podcast. If you want to be the first to get new episodes and stay updated and get free new devices and sample packs and other stuff that I'll be sending out in the future, join the newsletter. Just go to liveproducersonline.com/newsletter and or check out the links in the show notes. Make sure to give this guest a follow on the socials, give them some love for spending their time. And once again, thanks for listening to the podcast. I will see you next time. Later.